Commissioner Gordon, Bane has escaped.
Every person wants victory, but few want the exposure that comes with it. They dream of winning from safety, of conquering without risk, of building legacies without sacrifice. But life does not reward the hesitant. Every breakthrough stands on the grave of comfort. Risk is not an accessory of success. It is the foundation. You cannot win without putting something valuable on the line, because the universe only respects exchanges of equal weight. If you want more than you have, you must be willing to become more than you are. That transformation cannot happen in safety. It requires you to step into uncertainty, to trade prediction for possibility, to replace control with courage. When you take risks, you are not gambling. You are declaring faith in your ability to adapt. The fear of risk is the fear of exposure. People would rather stay invisible than be seen failing. But failure is not exposure. It is evidence of courage. Playing safe guarantees one outcome: stagnation. You cannot evolve while avoiding loss, because loss teaches what comfort hides. Every time you avoid risk, you reject evolution. You trade growth for security, and security slowly becomes your prison. To win in any field, you must build a tolerance for discomfort so high that fear no longer stops you. Every move that feels uncertain is an invitation to become more precise, more grounded, more alive. Risk sharpens you. It removes what is fragile and leaves only what is real. The most dangerous illusion is that risk can be avoided. Even staying still carries risk. The risk of decay, the risk of irrelevance, the risk of waking one day and realizing you never lived. You cannot escape the law of exchange. The person who risks nothing loses everything quietly over time. The one who risks everything gains clarity, skill, and perspective even in defeat. That is why the bold often rise while the careful remain unseen. Life respects momentum, and momentum is born from risk. Safety breeds overthinking, risk breeds mastery. You can study all you want, prepare endlessly, but until you commit, nothing real begins. Taking risks is not about recklessness. It is about precision guided by courage. A soldier does not run blind into danger. He studies the field, then steps forward anyway. The same rule applies to life. You measure the odds, accept the potential pain, and act. The key is to stop waiting for certainty. Certainty is a luxury the future never offers. You do not move because you know. You move because you trust that whatever comes, you can handle it. That confidence does not appear overnight. It is built from the pattern of surviving what once terrified you. Every risk taken successfully reprograms the mind to see danger as opportunity. Risk exposes you to truth. When you gamble with your comfort, your real character surfaces. You discover your threshold, your limits, and your resilience. It shows you what you value most, what you are willing to fight for, and what you were never truly committed to. That is why people who take real risks carry a different energy. They have confronted chaos and survived it. They move with quiet conviction because they no longer fear uncertainty. They have befriended it. The hesitant mistake their safety for peace. But peace without risk is numbness. It is life lived in low resolution. Risk brings intensity back to existence. Most people wait for permission to take risks. They want guarantees before they leap, approval before they move, applause before they act. That mindset kills potential. Greatness has no permission slip. You do not wait for the world to tell you the timing is right. You decide, and that decision creates the timing. Every legend began as a risk taker in a room full of doubters. They understood that the longer they delayed, the heavier the cost of inaction became. Risk is the language of change, and hesitation is its translation into failure. Every time you act boldly, you translate fear into creation. The beauty of risk lies in its ability to make life vivid. You cannot experience intensity without uncertainty. When everything is predictable, existence flattens. But when you take risks, you reintroduce color, depth, and pulse. You feel time again. You become aware of every breath, every heartbeat, every choice. The rush of uncertainty is not chaos. It is life reminding you that you are still in the game. People fear the fall, but they forget the view only exists for those who climb. Risk is the bridge between reality and potential, and it will never feel comfortable. That is how you know it matters. The great irony is that calculated risk brings more control, not less. When you take action, you gather data. When you hesitate, you remain blind. Movement reveals. Waiting distorts. Every risk, whether it succeeds or fails, sharpens awareness. It teaches you how the world actually works instead of how you hope it does. The ones who appear fearless are not immune to risk. They are fluent in it. They treat failure as feedback and fear as fuel. They do not pray for easier paths. They train for sharper instincts. That is how risk turns from a threat into a strategy. There will always be critics standing safely on the sidelines. They will mock those who fall, not realizing they have fallen further by never trying. The truth is, the moment you take a risk, you separate yourself from them forever. You become a participant in life rather than an observer. You join the few who are willing to burn the bridge behind them to ensure progress. That single act rewires everything. You stop fearing loss because you start gaining identity. You stop protecting comfort because you start protecting purpose. Those who risk life deeper fail louder and rise higher. Calculated danger widens perception because safety shrinks it. When you stay in comfort, your mind moves in straight lines, looping between predictability and habit. The world appears smaller than it is because you've never stepped beyond the edges of your own security. Calculated danger bends those lines. It forces you to look where you've never looked, to think in dimensions that safety keeps hidden. The brain lights up under risk. Awareness heightens. The senses sharpen. Time slows. You begin to see more, not just externally but internally. You discover what you are capable of when pressure tests your limits. Every calculated risk expands the perimeter of your vision. Once you've walked that edge, the world no longer feels confined. You realize you were the one drawing the boundaries all along. There's a difference between recklessness and calculated danger. Recklessness is chaos. Calculated danger is mastery. It is the art of standing at the line between control and surrender without falling into either. Those who understand it don't chase thrill for its own sake. They chase awareness. They know that true perception only widens when you enter environments where the stakes are real. When you place yourself where failure is possible, attention becomes sacred. You are forced to be present. You cannot drift through a dangerous moment. It demands your full consciousness. That is why those who live with risk often see life differently. They have been trained by tension to notice what others overlook. The world looks different when you have faced something that could have broken you. The colors feel sharper. The sounds carry weight. Every detail becomes a lesson. Calculated danger rewires the brain's relationship with fear. What once felt paralyzing becomes a signal of potential. Fear becomes data, not doom. You begin to analyze situations with precision rather than panic. It is through risk that the fog of ignorance burns away. Every close call, every daring decision adds another layer of insight into who you are and how the world responds. You stop guessing about your limits, you experience them. That experience changes everything about how you perceive both challenge and calm. Calculated danger transforms ordinary perception into heightened clarity because it strips away illusion. In danger, there is no room for pretense. You see reality without decoration, stripped of comfort and ego. The mask of invincibility fades. The truth of capability emerges. This clarity is what philosophers and warriors alike have sought for centuries. The intersection of awareness and risk. Safety numbs the senses. Danger awakens them. When you enter controlled risk, you are choosing to wake up, to stop being a spectator, and to become the one who experiences life in full resolution. That is not recklessness, it is reverence for reality. You cannot expand perception in stillness alone. The mind widens through tension. It learns by confronting the unknown, not by rehearsing the familiar. Calculated danger stretches you into alertness. You learn to manage fear instead of avoiding it. You learn to adapt instead of freeze. The act of calculating itself sharpens intelligence. You study angles, assess probabilities, and read consequences with precision. Then you leap. In that leap, intellect merges with instinct. That fusion is where real learning happens. Safety teaches theory. Danger teaches truth. The wider your exposure, the sharper your vision. Each risk adds a new lens through which you interpret reality. The beauty of calculated danger is that it humbles arrogance. When you live too long without exposure to uncertainty, you start believing you control everything. Risk reminds you that control is temporary and focus is survival. It grounds you in awareness. The climber does not look at the summit when scaling a cliff. He looks at his next hold. Danger teaches you presence through necessity. That presence bleeds into every part of life. You stop rushing through tasks. You stop fearing challenges. You start living with the same alert intensity that danger demands. This is how perception widens, not through more knowledge, but through deeper engagement. When you expose yourself to calculated danger, you begin to see how small most fears truly are. The minor anxieties that ruled your daily life lose their grip. Your perspective expands because you have touched something greater. You realize that comfort was never peace, it was sedation. Real peace comes from capability, from knowing you can navigate uncertainty with composure. Each brush with risk deepens your understanding of yourself and sharpens your sense of reality. You start noticing patterns in people, opportunities in chaos, and meaning in struggle. The mind becomes panoramic, no longer trapped in the tunnel of safety. Calculated danger does not just widen perception, it expands identity. You stop defining yourself by what you have done and start defining yourself by what you can endure. Every calculated risk reintroduces you to a new version of yourself. It forces you to meet the part of you that surfaces only under pressure. That meeting is transformative. You begin to operate with the awareness that you are larger than fear, smarter than panic, and steadier than emotion. It creates a quiet confidence that cannot be taught. It must be earned in the arena of risk. The world rewards that kind of awareness because it radiates calm amidst chaos. Those who never take calculated risks often mistake safety for vision. They believe they see clearly because their lives are stable, but what they actually see is repetition. True perception demands depth, and depth requires exposure. The more you engage with the unpredictable, the more you understand patterns beneath it. Risk reveals design where safety only sees surface. You begin to interpret life through contrast, stillness and movement, control and surrender, danger and mastery. That perception makes you dangerous in the best sense because you no longer panic when others freeze. You've seen enough to understand that every threat hides a lesson. Probability favors participation because the universe rewards those who move. Life is not a static lottery where you wait for your number to be called. It is a living field of probabilities that only reacts to motion. Every action you take is a signal sent into that field, each one carrying a chance of return. The more signals you send, the more likely one of them will come back as fortune. People call it luck, but luck is not random. It is exposure multiplied by persistence. You cannot attract opportunity while remaining still. You must participate, risk, and place yourself where outcomes can reach you. Those who stay still think they are avoiding loss, but they are also avoiding probability. Risk is the bridge between intention and chance, the way you meet possibility halfway. The hesitant believe luck chooses its favorites. The active understand that luck chooses its participants. Every opportunity in your life is waiting on a single condition: that you show up. When you move, when you create, when you speak, you expose yourself to collision with chance. A single conversation can rewrite a decade. One project can open a lifetime of doors. But those doors do not appear to those who wait behind comfort. Probability only begins to work in your favor once you decide to risk visibility. You must be seen to be selected. You must be willing to fail publicly to succeed quietly. Risk is not recklessness. It is visibility earned through courage. Every bet you place widens the surface area of luck. Each attempt creates an intersection between your effort and the world's randomness. One of those intersections will eventually hit. The mistake people make is believing they can predict which one. You cannot. That is why participation matters more than precision. If you only take actions guaranteed to succeed, you limit your surface area to almost nothing. But when you act boldly across multiple domains, probability bends. The compounding of attempts builds momentum that eventually collides with timing. It looks miraculous from the outside, but from the inside, it is simply math. Risk multiplied by consistency. Luck has no loyalty, but it has logic. It gravitates toward those in motion because motion generates data, and data creates possibility. The more you move, the more patterns you encounter, and the more chances you have to recognize opportunity when it arrives. People who never act live in blindness. Opportunity could stand inches from them, and they would not see it because their perception is dormant. But when you engage with life, your senses sharpen. You begin to notice small openings, hidden connections, subtle signals that others miss. That awareness is not coincidence. It is the reward of participation. The world is built on probabilities, not promises. You cannot control the outcome, but you can control exposure. The one who places 10 bets will always outpace the one who places 1, even if both begin with equal skill. Each attempt recalibrates your intuition. You learn patterns. You refine judgment. You stop gambling blindly and start gambling intelligently. That shift, risk transformed into strategy, is the foundation of progress. It does not remove uncertainty. It turns uncertainty into an ally. You begin to see risk not as danger, but as leverage. Each bet teaches you something no theory ever could. Most people fear wasted effort, but wasted effort does not exist. Every failed attempt sharpens instinct. Every rejection filters inefficiency. The more you engage, the more probability aligns with you, because the field of potential shrinks with each lesson learned. Eventually, the space between you and success becomes narrow enough for chance to meet you halfway. You no longer wait for luck, you manufacture it through persistence. When others call you lucky, what they are really seeing is years of exposure finally paying off. They see the winning hand, but not the thousands of bets that built it. Risk multiplies presence. When you participate repeatedly, you become a statistical anomaly. While most people make one timid attempt before retreating, you stay in motion. Over time, even low probability events begin to bend in your favor. This is not superstition, it is mathematics. The longer you play the game, the higher your odds of landing something extraordinary. Each rejection you survive removes one obstacle from probability's path. Eventually, your resilience becomes luck's magnet. You have endured enough variance to stand exactly where fortune must arrive. That is not coincidence. It is persistence applied with courage. The silent truth is that participation also reshapes your identity. Every risk taken redefines how you see yourself. You stop identifying as someone who hopes and start identifying as someone who acts. That identity shift transforms how you engage with reality. You no longer think in terms of safety or failure, you think in terms of iteration. Life becomes an experiment, and you become its architect. That mindset attracts results faster because it removes hesitation. You no longer need to be perfect. You only need to stay in the arena, and the arena rewards those who refuse to leave. The difference between those who wait and those who win is not intelligence. It is interaction. The world belongs to those who try. The more you attempt, the more you learn. The more you learn, the more you adjust. Adjustment refines probability until it starts looking like destiny. That is why the most successful people often appear to have supernatural luck. They are simply relentless experimenters. They increase their surface area so dramatically that chance cannot ignore them. Risk is their currency, participation their investment, and luck their dividend. Courage is not the absence of fear, it is the orchestration of it. The body shakes, the heart accelerates, the instincts scream retreat, but the prefrontal cortex steps in and says move anyway. That is courage in its rawest form, logic guiding chaos. The human brain evolved to protect, not to progress. It calculates danger faster than opportunity, which is why courage feels unnatural. It is not emotionless. It is the conscious override of primal circuitry. Every time you step forward despite the tremor, you rewrite that wiring. The amygdala sends panic, and the prefrontal cortex replies with clarity. That conversation inside the mind is where transformation begins. Each repetition strengthens the pathway that favors logic over fear, movement over paralysis, action over avoidance. Courage is not born, it is trained through repetition of defiance. People mistake courage for recklessness. They think it is impulse or blind faith. But real courage is calculation under duress. It is control maintained in chaos. The soldier entering the field is afraid, but he moves because his logic is louder than his fear. The entrepreneur taking a risk, the artist revealing their truth, the fighter stepping into the ring. All feel the same tremor of uncertainty. The difference is that they act anyway. Their prefrontal cortex has learned to command the storm. Fear becomes signal, not prison. That shift marks the difference between dreamers and doers. The world does not remember those who imagined what could be. It remembers those who walked toward it trembling and did it anyway. Ambition without exposure is fantasy. You can fill notebooks with ideas, make plans that sound profound, but until your skin meets consequence, none of it counts. Exposure is where truth begins. Once risk enters the equation, everything artificial dissolves. You cannot fake effort when stakes are real. The mind becomes sharper because failure now has a face. Every risk taken under pressure burns away illusion. That is why those who avoid exposure never evolve. They remain stuck in imagination, safe but stagnant, brilliant in theory and hollow in execution. Ambition becomes real only when reality can punish it. Without exposure, you are only playing chess with yourself. Vision demands contact with consequence. Every step forward requires friction. People romanticize dreams but forget that vision without execution is hallucination. The purpose of vision is direction, not decoration. It means nothing until effort scars it. When you expose your ambition to the world, you invite pain, critique, and failure. But you also invite momentum, learning, and transformation. Exposure is the crucible where potential becomes performance. Those who hide from it never develop the precision that risk teaches. Every time you act, reality calibrates you. Every loss becomes data. Every win becomes direction. That feedback loop cannot exist without exposure. Courage's job is evolution. The two are forever locked in negotiation, but only one can lead. When you act courageously, you teach your brain that uncertainty is survivable. That rewiring expands what you perceive as possible. Suddenly, the edges of your comfort zone dissolve and new horizons open. You stop being controlled by survival instinct and start being guided by purpose. This shift is biological and spiritual at once. It transforms every system in the body to follow vision instead of avoidance. The pulse still quickens, but now it signals readiness, not retreat. Fear becomes an invitation, not a verdict. The people who operate with courage are not fearless. They are fluent in fear. They have felt panic enough times to recognize its rhythm and move with it. Courage is rhythm control. It is walking through fire and realizing the flames cannot burn conviction. You master fear by respecting it, not by denying it. You understand that its presence means you are exactly where growth happens. Those who live without fear are not brave. They are comfortable. Those who feel fear and move through it are rewriting evolution itself. Each act of courage is a rebellion against biology's demand for safety. Ambition dies in safety. Comfort corrodes hunger. Vision fades in routine. You cannot ignite purpose while avoiding exposure. You must risk rejection to earn recognition. You must risk failure to earn mastery. You must risk loss to earn presence. Every great leap begins as a small defiance against self-preservation.